My research begins on the American plantation, before the Civil War at the height of plantation slavery. Word spread on the plantation that certain enslaved Africans had within them a special ability just waiting to be unlocked, the ability to fly. The exact origins of this flying African myth are impossible to trace, but the main elements of its many retellings are typically the same. After a particularly dehumanizing event linked to labor or abuse from the master, an enslaved African chants magic words, rises into the air, and flies back to Africa. Scholars read this flight as a movement away from a degrading and racist American society and toward a reestablished connection with the enslaved Africans' indigenous roots. And this is fitting for those narratives from the 19th century. But in my dissertation, I look at examples of embodied black flight as they appear in 20th and 21st century African American literature. And this begs the question, why do African American writers continue to find use in this myth of black flight so long after emancipation? In my dissertation, I argue that contemporary instances of flight represent a movement not away from America, but above and beyond its patterns of black subjugation. The characters that I study see flight as a way to escape the many racist policies and attitudes that have survived the end of plantation slavery. For example, in my first chapter, I look at a series of short stories by Ralph Ellison about two adolescent boys growing up in the 1930s. They dream of flight that will take them to the big city, where they can earn money and live independently and perhaps escape the threat of racial discrimination and violence in the Jim Crow South. In another chapter, I look at a novel from the 1980s by Randall Keenan about a gay black teenager growing up in a conservative Southern community. He attempts to cast a spell to turn himself into a bird so that he can fly away from this discrimination he faces and the shame he feels about his sexuality. In the last chapter, I turn to children's literature from the 20th and 21st centuries as a way to think about the unique concerns of black childhood. For example, in one book, we see a black youth flying away from a police officer who demands that the boy return to the earth. Readers know that doing that would expose him to the very real threat of police violence. I believe that these examples and others show us why the myth of black flight remains so relevant today, so long after emancipation. Much has changed since then, but at least one thing has remained constant: the deeply rooted idea of a national identity based in whiteness and the anti-black racism that engenders. I believe it is necessary work for us to read the stories of today that show us how racism manifests now, and these stories from the past that show us, at least in part, how we got here, and that reading these things together might help us see a path forward to more equality and freedom. Thank you.